Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we travel to the upside down. Today we go over the first four seasons of the show that built Netflix. If it wasn't for this show, we wouldn't have the Netflix that we have today. And it is Stranger Things. We are going over the first four seasons. The a show that I was close, or not was, but I am close to deeming my all-time favorite show. And I say close because it has to stick the landing. It has to stick the landing, and we're going to find out beginning on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, we're going to find out how we wrap up this epic conclusion to this just gigantic show. I can't think of an adjective to give this show justice and how much I adore this show. This show speaks to me. It speaks to, of course, millions of others around the world, just like you and me. But for me personally, it just hit every single button. It really, really tugged on my heartstrings because I am an 80s baby. And 80s are my favorite decade. That's my favorite decade on my short time on this planet. And this show is a showcase of that decade. This is everything that I loved about the 80s wrapped up in one gigantic ball of adventure. And I have enjoyed every single season. Now, there's one out of the four, there's one that I didn't love as much as the others, but I can still pick moments in that season where I enjoyed it so much. I still enjoyed it. But that was just one. And the reason it's a little weak is because it wasn't as strong as the other episodes, but other seasons. But it was still a good season nonetheless. But it just, everything that I loved, as far as pop culture is concerned, everything that I loved about the 80s is in this show. Whether it's films, they touch in on Goonies, they touch in on Stand By Me, they touch in on Terminator, they touch in on the Freddy Krueger films, they touch in on everything about that, and every season has a theme, and every season is like that portion of my life. There was a section in my life where I just focused on this one thing, and that's how the show is kind of condensed to season by season. And so it's just been fun to watch, and it's been fun to watch these kids grow up. When we first started watching this show, when you had Will and Lucas and Mike and Dustin, and later we had 11, they were little babies. They were just out of toddler age if you if you look at them, but now they're adults. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown is married with a kid now. And we're going into season 5. Finn Wolfhard, who plays Mike on the show, the dude is about 7 feet tall now. all of these kids aren't kids anymore, and it's just been fun. It feels like you're part of the family in a sense because you literally watch them grow up in front of your eyes, and it's just been a joy to watch, man. And it's going to be painful come New Year's Day when it all comes to an end. Yes, this final season 5 of Stranger Things will wrap up in 3 volumes for the remainder of this year. Starting on Thanksgiving, it is all Stranger Things. There's nothing else to think about. There's nothing else to look forward to, at least in my eyes, but Stranger Things. We get volume 1 on Thanksgiving. We get volume 2 Christmas. We get the final volume 3 on New Year's Eve. And that's how we wrap up the year as we close out this chapter of history, this chapter of our lives. And man, it's going to be heartbreaking. I cried like a baby when the trailer for season 5 dropped. I watched it at least 30 times since it dropped. I just can't get enough of it because I know this is it. This is it. When you watch a movie trailer or you go watch a film per se and it's a part of a franchise, there's always a little hope that maybe, you get a sequel to that movie. It still has an impact, but you might get a sequel. Here we know this is it. Now they may do spin-offs. I think they announced that they're doing some spin-offs maybe. I think there's an animated series or movie that's coming out and stuff like that. But as far as this core, as far as this story, it's gonna wrap up. Then it's gonna be heartbreaking because I've enjoyed this. This is a family thing in my house. We get together whenever the season drops on Netflix. That's it for us. That weekend, that is it. we are we are bunkered down and we're watching it throughout with no breaks, all gas. We are watching the show no matter how late it is, no matter what we had planned. Those plans are canceled. We are all in on Stranger Things. So I can only imagine for the next 2 months how it's going to be in the Reed household. We are Netflixed up for the next 2 months. But it actually started early because I rewatched the first 4 seasons. Rewatched the first 4 seasons in preparation for season 5. And I did it. And then my wife turned around and did it too. I didn't tell her. She's going to find out when she listens to this if she do. But she'll find out then that I rewatched it first. And she came back and we watched it, and she like, "Oh, you want to watch?" I'm like, "No, I got some things tied up. I'm good." I didn't I didn't tell her that I already did it, but she did. She got all caught up and refreshed, and this is a way that I'm doing this show. This is a way that for those of you who don't have the time, you may don't have the time to sit down and watch all 4 seasons before Thanksgiving Day. And so I'm going to attempt to wrap it up in one episode of Movie Goodness as we recap seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 as we prepare for the epic conclusion to Stranger Things season 5, which drops November the 26th. And so we have a lot to get through, so there's no point prolonging it. Let's jump right in. Season 1 of Stranger Things premiered on Netflix on July the 15th, 2016. Can you believe that? 2016 is when this show premiered. And it's hard for me to believe that it's been close to 10 years, 9.5 years since this show has been a part of our lives and a part of the world, the pop culture zeitgeist for that amount of time. But it premiered in July of 2016. In case you don't know, and you've been living under a rock for 10 years, Stranger Things is set in the 80s. The series centers on residents in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana, after a young girl with, what's it called, psychokinetic powers, opens a gateway between Earth and the horizontal alternative dimension known as the Upside Down. The show stars Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Brent Wolfhard, Millie Bobby Brown, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, Natalia Dreyer, Charlie Heaton, Matthew Modine, Noah Shep, Sadie Sink, Joel Curry, and a countless other supporting cast and pop-ups that are iconic 80s figures who pop up as guest stars throughout the series. The show is created by the Duffer Brothers, who developed the show Stranger Things as a mix of investigative drama and supernatural elements portrayed with horror and childhood situation or childlike sensibilities, I should say. And it is infusing influences from pop culture of the 80s, like I mentioned before. There's several th- dramatic tones or elements were inspired by Steven Spielberg, John Carpenter, Stephen King, Wes Craven, H.P. Lovecraft, things of that nature. And they also took inspiration from the experiments conducted during the Cold War and conspiracy theories involving secret government programs. And so they took all of that, mashed it all together, and gave us pure 80s nostalgia. This show has just been praised by critics throughout its 4 seasons thus far for its acting, for the atmosphere, the direction, the writing, so many elements throughout this show. So season one. Season one begins, well, at least it's set in November of 1983. And this is where we find Will Byers, where he's abducted by a creature from the upside down. His mother, Joyce, who is played by Winona Ryder, and the police chief, Jim Hopper, who is played by David Harbour, and a group of volunteers search for him. A young psychokinetic girl named 11 escapes from this laboratory and finds the friends of Will, who are also searching for their friend Will. But in the course of that, they began to form a friendship with 11, who assists them in their efforts to find their best friend. Season one was a great introduction to this show. And you knew off the bat that this was something different. This wasn't going to be your run of the mill TV show where it checked all the boxes of your standard shows where the jock is the villain, especially in the 80s. Your typical 80s tropes weren't the actual tropes. Joe Keery, who started off as the prototypical 80s jock, meathead, got the girl but loses the girl and all this here. You thought that he would die in season one. You thought that was going to be it for him, because he was that character. Only for later on, as we travel through these 4 seasons, he's one of the most beloved characters, especially with regards to the relationship, or the friendship, I should say, between him and Dustin, that grows throughout the season, or through seasons. We get the Dungeons and Dragons reference. And for those of you who didn't grow up in the 80s and didn't know how controversial Dungeons and Dragons was, that was it was banned in homes. It wasn't banned in my home. I really had no interest in Dungeons and Dragons. One, you had to have a group, and I wasn't in a group. I had friends, but they all had different sensibilities, so nobody could come together to play Dungeons and Dragons. So I never really gave it much thought to play. But in a lot of households, parents did not want their children playing Dungeons and Dragons because it was a big brouhaha about the magical elements or the spiritual elements, and which leads to Satan. And that was the narrative about Dungeons and Dragons. Playing that is a path to Satan. So it didn't play. I mean, good God, I would hate to see if GTA was around in the 80s. Oh my goodness, they would ban it. They would burn those games. In pals, in demonstrations in the street. And so yeah, that was a big thing. And to have that showcase, to be the center point of the show, you know off the bat that we're in for something different. It wasn't just following the kids around either. It was more to it than that. Because when you think about 80s movies and dealing with a group of kids, whether it's Goonies, whether it's Stand By Me, movies of that such, the adults, if they even show up in the movie, played zero factor. There was no adult influence in the films. It was all about the kids, and their adventures, what they're going through, or whatever the case may be. And so when we get in this show, we don't just follow kids, and we have adults that you actually like. Just to go back to the movies, go back to those films that I mentioned, when we do see adults in those films, they were the villains. The adults were always the villains. You rarely saw good adults in those movies. And so when we get to this film, yeah, there are villainous adults in the show, but Renona Ryder's character as Will's mom, you like her. Jim Hopper, you like him. These are heroes. They are helping the kids. They're not shoo-shooing the kids away like, oh, you're just kids. Oh, y'all playing too much Dungeon and Dragons. Get out of my face. Stop playing that game. It wasn't none of that. They really went on board with the kids. And that was a cool element of this show in its introduction in season 1 that made it different, that made it fresh, that made it super, super interesting. The elements of the investigation with the kids, going through these little trials and tribulations to find out exactly where is Will, what is going on with Will. We get the iconic scene with the alphabet written on the wall, and Joyce's mom is communicating with Will, who's in the Upside Down, through these Christmas lights that are set up around the alphabet. And I'm like, man, this is nice. This is unique. This is a cool way to show that Will is still alive. A cool way to keep the adults engaged and keep them grounded in the story, not believing that the kids are just making this up or using their imagination. No, this is really something wrong. It's really something wrong with Hawkins. And so I got to touch on this because it's been blaring in my mind since I started recording, so I might as well get it out now. One of the biggest, not flaws, but biggest gripes about Stranger Things is the one element that took place in season 1 that has yet to be resolved. Actually, it was resolved, but I think a lot of people, including me, are just not satisfied with the resolution, and that is hashtag justice for Barb. Out of all of the characters in every season who has come and has left the show, died off the show, Barb's exit is probably the most debated. And everybody, and we're going to touch in on the other deaths in the other seasons, but those deaths I think had more weight than Barb's, but everybody is upset about the Barb. Barb being 86th in the first season was so heartbreaking for everybody that nobody has gotten over it. And I think the most disturbing thing for me is the fact that Barb parents, mom, dad, whoever, have yet to pop up on this show. Question, where is their daughter? We've been through 4 seasons, going into a 5th, and nobody has asked, where is Barb? We've addressed other deaths. It's been lasting effects throughout the seasons, but except for Barb. it's it's amazing to me. It is super super amazing. The fact that there's been no justice for poor Barb. It was a cool little she was a cool little character, man. And she was Nancy's best friend, who is Mike's sister, and it just went nowhere. Went nowhere. She went missing. We all know what happened to her. She died. I think in season 2 or something, we saw a dead body in the upside down. But that's neither here nor there. It could have been season 1. I'm getting mixed up with it now. But either way, she's gone. She's gone. But a lot of people are frustrated with it, understandably so. I wish we would have got justice for her. I really do. But that wasn't the main one that really cut deep for me. And I'm going to let y'all know when I get to it. But season 1 was so good. And my most memorable moment from season 1 has to be when 11 laid up there and saved Mike and the boys from being jumped by those kids, and she just came and wrecked shop. She tore them up telepathically. It was the most satisfying scene I have ever seen on this show. I just love it. It just sticks in my head, and it has some really good moments in season 1 that got me hooked and to the point that where I am now with the show. But that sticks out to me. That has always stuck out to me. I went back and watched that episode. I remember back in 2016, I went back just to watch that episode several times because I just love that scene. That scene just worked for me. It clicked for me to see 11 go beast mode in that moment because I didn't know at the time what we would get going forward. But yeah, that was really cool. Super super enjoyed it. Season 1 was a joy, and it was. I mean, look at the impact it made. Eggos, their stock went up. Eggos, I didn't eat Eggos. I never was a waffle person, but I started eating them after that. My girls ate Eggos, but I never ate them. I started eating them. I started eating Eggos because of Stranger Things. Yes, I'm going to give them their credit because I can't pinpoint why I started eating them other than the fact I saw 11 chomping them down in season 1 of Stranger Things. But it made an impact on the culture, on society, and of course on Netflix. This was a monster hit that quickly led to a season 2 of the show. Season 2, the themes of this show. Now, season 1, it was more of a mosh pit, a gumbo pot of 80s nostalgia. You know, we got the ET reference, you know, with the chase at the end when the kids were on the bicycles running from the government, just like in ET. And we get the shot with the van flipping over the kids on the bike and stuff like that, as opposed to E.T. when E.T. made the bikes float, levitate over those government cars and vehicles and stuff like that. So it was a good little twist there with that. But we got a lot of Spielberg references in season 1. That was kind of the theme of season 1, you know, Close Encounters. We got a lot of that element in season 1. Season 2 theme was Ghostbusters. Season 2 theme really leaned into the Ghostbuster element of it, and it also touched in on a lot of other 80s references, but Ghostbusters was the thing. And once again, another favorite from that decade of mine. Ghostbusters changed horror, comedy, special effects, and didn't know you can mix all that up in one movie, and Ghostbusters broke the mold with that. So we get this in season 2. Will is safe from the upside down after being saved at the end of season 1. The boys reunited. This is based around Halloween. with now I'm talking about the holiday where the kids, all four of them, dress up as Ghostbusters, being as though they all fit the bill. You get the token black kid, you got the other you got the other elements of Ghostbusters. And yeah, they were the perfect Ghostbuster team. And so Hopper has adopted 11, I guess you could say. She's staying with Hopper. Season 2 is when we get the introduction to a new character by the name of Max, who is played by Sadie Sink. And this was a great addition to the show. This was the love interest of Lucas. And that was also odd because he's the one black kid in the group. It was odd because I I didn't expect Lucas to get a story arc. I'm gonna be 100% transparent with you because the black kid or the token black kid never gets a story in these movies, and it's sad, but it's true. Go back and watch them. They don't have a backstory. Just go back to Ghostbusters, since we are in the Ghostbuster era of this show. Uh, Eddie Hudson or Ernie Hudson, his character was the least developed character of the Ghostbusters. Still is. Even in the sequels, he was never truly developed. His character, nobody knows his backstory. Nobody knows what he's all about. He just came there looking for a job and he got the job. Everybody else were scientists. He was just there. And it's the same thing with Lucas. Lucas is just part of the clique. He's the guy that it's not about being a token. He's just the guy that was just there. And this season we started to get an actual story with him. He gets his own arc, along with Max, who has her own baggage, coming from this troubled home that she's in with a stepbrother and all those elements, being the new kid in town and all this here. So there's a lot going on there. And so I thought that was a nice little monkey wrench to throw into this storybook, this fairy tale that we're telling. Now, that's the element of this season I liked. Remember when I mentioned that not all of them hit home with me? It was one season that I didn't care for too much, and that was this season 2. Season 2, even though it had some awesome elements to it, like I said, is enjoyable. You can find enjoyable parts throughout this season, but the one part of this season that just irritated me to no end were the others, the other superpowered individuals. Well, not superpowered. Jeez, it's not a Marvel show, but the other individuals who were at that government facility being experimented on, along with 11, who escaped, and they link up. The leader of the little clique here, I think her name was Carly or Collie, and her little crew. I didn't like that. Because it went nowhere, and it still hasn't. We've yet to see him again. Now they could pop up in season 5 coming up. That'll be cool. But as far as even in season 2, they played no role in the main story. They would just dare to, I guess, shepherd 11 along or something. I don't even. I just don't get it. And I watched it, like I said, recently, and it still didn't click. Nothing about it clicked. I like the demo dogs in here. I like that element of the show. Uh, she does return back to Hopper. She only left because her and Hopper had a little disagreement or whatever the case may be. And yeah, that whole storyline just didn't work. It didn't mesh with me. The storyline that did work, of course, Max, her stepbrother Billy, who plays a big role in the show, the developing friendship between Steve and Dustin. That was an element I didn't see coming. It was it was a nice touch. It was a nice touch to this season. But season two, it was set 11, wink, wink, 11 months after season one in October of 1984. Uh, Will has been rescued. He begins to have premonitions about the fall of Hawkins caused by a creature in the Upside Down. When it's discovered that Will is still being possessed by an entity from the Upside Down, his friends and family learn that there's a larger threat to their world. And that's the best way to sum up season two. It was good. It was fine. It was fine. It was just a couple of episodes in that season that I felt were throwaways. And that's a rarity for Stranger Things because there are no throwaway episodes in this show. Um, the heartbreaking, the heartbreaker of this season has to be hands down Bob. Bob, played by Sean Ashton, who coincidentally plays Mike in The Goonies. And he's a grown adult in this film. And I mean, in this show, once again, perfect homage to the 80s. And his death still hurts. I'm not even gonna lie, man. Rewatching it still bothered me. I was still upset by the death of Bob, man, because he made the ultimate sacrifice to save the kids and Joyce and their relationship. Because Bob was just a sweetheart, man. Bob was just a all around good guy who didn't deserve to go out like that, being ripped apart by demi-dogs. But this season concludes with the dance at the snowball at the school where Mike danced with 11. You get Lucas dancing with Max, and we get Kiss, the epic kiss from Mike and 11 that sets up their friendship graduating to a relationship. The Lucas Max kiss felt like the most forced kiss on God's green earth. It felt like the kiss, they just kissed to, I don't know, man. I guess to fit something of the show. I don't get it. Oh, to set in the future that they're in a relationship or whatever the case, but they didn't need to kiss. It just felt forced. And if you watched interviews with them after that, they were like, oh yeah, that was our first kiss. It wasn't even written. It was just something that happened on the set. They said, okay, now y'all kiss. These kids. So it didn't play well on screen, but I give them an A for effort. But it just did not work. But that's how the season wraps up. So we move on to season 3, and it's set 9 months after the end of season 2, and in days leading up to the 4th of July celebration in 1985, they have a new element of this show, and that is the mall. The mall was the centerpiece of season 3, and what a perfect nucleus to this season. This was the center of attention for Hawkins. The mall was just built, the Star Court, just built in Hawkins, and is putting the majority of other local businesses out of business due to the mall's popularity, which a lot of malls did around that time. I know that not so much, because malls used to be the thing. Kids now don't know the impact of a mall. A mall was like, I don't know how to describe it. It's something that you, oh man, how can I put it in words? I got like 50 words jumbled up trying to come out at the same time. It was describing a mall, people, a mall. But that's just how much of an impact a mall was. We had malls, at least in the New Orleans area. We had malls for different occasions. We'll go to the mall in Kenner. And that was for certain things. We'll go to the mall in New Orleans East for a certain thing. They all had similar stores, but it was different elements. Like we'll go to the mall in the East for the girls. We'll go to the mall in Metairie for the good stuff. We'll go to the mall and it was just we went to malls for different things. And the mall had everything, every store you can think of, every food restaurant you could think of, every the arcades were there. I mean, it was a utopia for kids in that era. Now kids don't have nowhere to go. Kids hang around Walmart all day. They don't have nowhere to go. And it's sad, man. It is so sad. It hurts me to my heart. My kids, my girls, didn't experience malls like we did. Now they went to the mall. There's still malls around. They go to the malls, but it's not like a hangout spot. Saturdays, we spend our entire Saturday in the mall. Summer, during the summertime, every day. Everything. And that's when we don't have money. It don't matter. We just hang out at the mall. It was something about the mall. And this season 3, really captured that element. It felt like that for me. And they did an excellent job of capturing the importance of the mall for young adults, for preteens or teenagers. And for that reason alone, season 3 was excellent. But there was so much more. Hopper, he becomes increasingly concerned about 11 and Mike's relationship. you know, uh, uh, the season opens up with 11 and Mike in her room, and the doors close, and Hopper's freaking out. He's like, "Man, don't close any doors. No closed doors in here." He's become super protective because she's his daughter now. Is official to them. Um, Unbeknownst to the town, we have a secret element that has also popped up in Hawkins. Not just the mall, but a secret Soviet laboratory underneath the mall, which seeks to open the gateway to the upside down. And so now we're introducing elements of this Soviet conflict, this Cold War conflict that was brewing in the 80s. And so we got that. And this season really leaned into Terminator. We had a Terminator type character, this Russian agent or assassin or whatever he was. And he was just an unstoppable force, man. And when him and Hopper linked up, that was cool at the end of this season. Uh Another character that was introduced that met his untimely demise this season was the character of Yuri, who was just a belovable character, and he ended up dying in this season. But it was also interesting that we got a new element to this upside down when we got the mind flare who uses mind control, and he mainly used it on Billy, who is the older stepbrother of Max, to do his bidding. And Billy was a character that you hated him, but you loved to hate him. You liked Billy, at least I did. I liked Billy, but Billy was a douche. I couldn't stand him because I know Billies. I've grown up around Billies. And so I know that guy. But Diker Montgomery, who plays Billy, does such a good job of making him a sympathetic figure, a relatable figure in the show, character in the show that, man, it really hurt when he died at the end. It really hurt when he died this episode, man, because he was so much of a, a horrible stepbrother to Max, and for him to make that sacrifice for Max, it was soul crushing, man. Because he was under mind control the most of the season, and uh, things that he was doing wasn't him. It wasn't him. Even though he was an idiot before, but he was a redeemable idiot. Now he just turned pure evil because of the mind flare. But he broke free enough to make that sacrifice and save the day for the kids at that mall. Another guest star who was in season two. I think yeah, it was season two where he was introduced, and that was Paul Reiser. Paul Reiser, who cut his teeth in the 80s. You know, we first saw him in Aliens, the James Cameron Aliens. Uh, that's where we first saw him. So it was good homage to him, to that movie, I should say, to have him on the show. And he also rolled over into season four. I don't think he was in the third season, but I wanted to mention that. I skipped over that for some strange reason. We were introduced to another character as well, a new character, and that was Robin, who is portrayed on the show by Maya Hawke. And if you don't know who Maya Hawke is, she's a nepo baby, but not a real nepo baby. She really can act. She is so good on the show, such a perfect addition to the show. Maya Hawke, who famous parents are Ethan Hawke, her father, and Uma Thurman, her mother. Yes, Kill Bill, Uma Thurman. That's her mom. And you shouldn't have to ask that because she looks just like her mom. Actually, she look. Sometimes she looked like her dad. Sometimes she looked like her mom. It's weird. Like certain facial expressions, she'll switch between the two, and I'm like, oh my god. But people say that about my daughter too. They're like, "Oh, she looked like your wife," or there's like, "Oh no, she looked like you." It's just certain things kids do. But yeah, she is awesome on this show, and we find out on the show we thought that this was a potential love interest early on for Steve, but it comes out that she's actually a lesbian. The character, that is, she's a lesbian, and her and Steve are just real close friends. And I thought that was great. That's great writing. That's great writing because the clicheist thing to do is to just give him a love interest because Steve is such a beloved character, you know, especially coming from where his character started in season one. But to become one of the most beloved characters on the show, it'd have been nice to give him a love interest. But they really focus, it's mainly about his friendship with Dustin. And once again, great writing because I super appreciate that. But this was an awesome season, a real good bounce back season from season two, which was a little weak. This was a jolt of adrenaline into this show, got it back on track. Thankfully, yeah, season three was a banger, absolute banger. I loved everything about it. Nothing missed for me. Nothing missed in season three for me. And that leads us to season four. Season four takes place 8 months later in March of 1986. Now we see that Joyce, Will, 11, and Jonathan, they have decided to leave Hawkins. They moved to California for a fresh start. In California, 11 struggles with the loss of her powers due to the end of season three when she battled the mind flare. Oh, but speaking of that, I didn't tell you my favorite, my my favorite, my favorite part of season three. I don't know why, but this sticks with me. I don't understand it because there are so many other great elements of season three, but this always sticks out. It's, it was Dustin and his girlfriend, who is a girl. She's in Canada. And you know you hear that trope all the time. Oh, I have a girlfriend. She lives in Canada. And that was the running gag throughout the entire season. Nobody believed that he had a girlfriend. And it come to find out, it comes to find out that it's true, that he has a girlfriend. And so at the end of the season, when they're trying to, because they met at this camp and they sing, and so the girl the girl tells Dustin like, I'll help you if you see if we sing whatever together. And this is over the walkie-talkie, and he finally agrees, after trying not to do it because it's embarrassing because everybody's listening. And he finally does it. He starts singing. And that's not the part that got me. The part that got me was David Harbour. David Har- David Harbour's just like, are you kidding me? Look, when they're waiting to get inside of the facility where the Russians are underneath the ball or whatever. And and that look, I don't know what it was. It's so subtle, but it's the most hilarious thing. It sticks with me. It sticks with me. One of my favorite moments throughout the series because we were in the most dire of situations, and they just dropped that comedy gold dead smack in the middle of it. I, you can't you can't write that better. But anyway, going back to season 4, in season 4, yes, 11 had lost her powers. She begins to get bullied at school. Meanwhile, Hawkins, on the other hand, back at home, there there's a new being from the upside down, and it's called Vecna. Vecna begins killing residents in Hawkins, and while doing so, opening new gates between the new world or the two worlds in the process. And Vecna is the main baddie. He is the main villain in this show. And this season leaned into the Nightmare on Elm Street trope. This was a homage to 80s horror. Season 4. It checked every box for me. This was such an homage to Freddy Krueger because Vecna was basically Freddy Krueger that Robert Englund himself, who plays Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street films, has a part in this show. Has a guest star in this season. This was excellent. Season 4, it was like nothing was off limits. Nothing was off limits. People were dying left and right, and it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. Uh, the stakes were higher. It felt like the stakes were definitely higher this season. Vecna looked like an unstoppable force. We got introduced to Eddie this season. Eddie, played by Joseph Quinn, who has gone on to be a big star in Hollywood. He was just in Fantastic Four as Johnny Storm, amongst other films. He was in A Quiet Place. He was in Gladiator 2 and countless other films, but his star just took off after this. And once again, another character that was set up to be kind of an antagonist, not so much the villain, but the antagonist, and turned out to be a hero. Once again, sacrificing himself. It's funny how somebody sacrifices themselves every season. That's why this upcoming season, I think there's going to be a huge sacrifice, and it's not going to come from a guest star. It's going to come from one of our mains, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this is one of the best seasons of the show. I want to say the best season of the show, but it's I don't know. I don't think that's fair, because none of them really better than the other than the fact that 1, 3, and 4 are better than 2, but 1, 3, and 4 are pretty equal in how great they are. They're just great. But I enjoyed season 4 so much. I guess because I'm a horror nut, especially 80s horror, and this was the season that they paid homage to that. And it they checked all the boxes there. Vecna really was a force of nature. He was frightening. He was everything that you can recall from Freddy Krueger. I'm talking early Freddy Krueger, the first three films in the franchise, as opposed to on, where he became a joke. You know, he was more of a comedian, cracking jokes and all this other stuff. But the first three films in the not Friday the 13th, but the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Freddy Krueger was frightening. He was really frightening. So they captured that element and put it in Vecna. The scene of this season for me, hands down, Sadie Sink at the cemetery being taken over by Vecna, and we get the iconic Kate Bush running up the hill. That was the scene. That was there's nothing else to talk about. Cinema, man. Absolute cinema. It was every emotion just running up the hill. It was every emotion at play during that scene. The frantic nature of Lucas and Dustin, and who else was at that site? I forgot who else was there, but they're there trying to get, I'm about to say Sadie Sink, but Max to snap out of this trance and couldn't. And the only way was to play that song. And while she's in the upside down, you hear the song playing and her trying to get out and running as everything around her is crumbling and everything. And she's literally running up a hill while the song is playing. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. It was absolute cinema. That was the scene that defined the season for me. But this was also an awesome season when it, in regards to Hopper, who we thought died at the end of season 3, but it was spoiled in the trailers, which that's the only thing they did wrong leading up into season 4. They spoiled that Hopper was alive because that was the big cliffhanger. That was the big bugaboo, because Hopper looked like he made the ultimate sacrifice at the end, being sucked into the upside down. But in actuality, he ended up being pulled through that Russian base into Russia, the other end of that portal, if you will. And he was under, well, captured in this little work camp prison type deal in Russia. So we got his escape and all that playing out that season. Everything was just fire, man. All of the plots, everybody was separated. Everybody was in different parts of the world. Literally, Hopper in Russia. You had Will and 11 in California. Everybody else was in Hawkins. It was just, I mean, it was pure madness. Even Mike was in Hawkins, separate. You know, they're trying to do a long distance relationship thing and all this. Everybody was spread from hell and gone, but they managed to make it all mesh together. And when they got together at the end, to kind of vanquish Vecna, in the fight to get back to Hawkins after escaping, quote unquote, Hawkins, was also a cool element of this season. Season 4 was probably just by a smidge my favorite season thus far. I really enjoyed season 4 of Stranger Things. But that's my little quick little recap of the 4 seasons. Super excited for the 5th and final season. And this go around, just to give you a little preview of what's to come, the 5th and final season is set in the fall of 1987, and the group seek to find and kill Vecna after the rifts that opened up at the end of season 4 open up in Hawkins, which causes the government to quarantine the town. And so the mission becomes complicated when the military set up shop in Hawkins and began hunting 11. And so, nearing the anniversary of Will's disappearance, the group must stay together one last time for the final battle and face something more powerful and deadlier than ever before. If you watch the trailer leading up to this season for the final season of the show, you know that it's going to be literally all hell is going to break loose in Hawkins. And for them to split this up into 3 volumes, and from what I'm understanding, from what I read, that like every episode is 2 hours. And I think we're only getting like in the volumes is like 3 episodes a volume. I could be off on that. Actually, yeah, I am, because there's 8 episodes remaining. I think the first volume is 4 episodes. Yeah, the first volume is 4, the second volume is 3, and then we get the big finale on New Year's Eve. And I believe they're releasing that in theaters. And guess what? I'm going to see it in the theater. Yeah, I can watch it at home for, well, not for free because I'm paying for Netflix, but you get what I'm saying. But I'm going to the theater. I'm going to the theater. There's nothing to talk about. There's no debating that. Yeah, they got my money. But this is going to be an exciting conclusion to this story. I just hope they stick the landing. That's all. They don't have to do anything special. They don't have to go over the top and do too much. Just stick with what brought you here. Dance with the one that brought you. You don't have to go all out with it. But I'm excited. I think that if I had any predictions on who's gonna survive, who's not, I think the easy prediction would be 11. I think 11 makes the ultimate sacrifice at the end. That's the easy prediction. But this show has never been easy. This show has always made the difficult choice. And so I don't think it's 11. It may be Will. Because going by the trailers, and once again, this can be classified as easy too. We know that Will is where it all began, and it could be Will where it all ends. Will could make the ultimate sacrifice at the end. But I really do think one of our core kids, and I put that in heavy quotations because they're not kids anymore, but kids on the show are going to make a sacrifice, and it's going to tear us apart. But hey, I'm here for it. I can't wait. Volume 1 drops November the 26th. Volume 2 drops December 25th, Christmas Day, and the ultimate finale of Stranger Things drops December 31st. Oh boy, I am psyched, man. I am so psyched for the remainder of this year. Like I said to start off this episode, this is it. This is it. Yes, there will be other shows here on the KB Radio Network, but my main focus from here on out is Stranger Things. For the rest of 2025, they have my undivided attention. But I would like to know, are you excited for season 5? Are you planning on watching all 4 seasons before the 26th? Whenever this episode comes out here, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to have time, but hey, you may carve out enough time. You can watch Netflix on your phone and stuff. So you probably can sit in your office and sneak and watch it while you at work and stuff. Hey, I ain't advocating it. I don't want you to get fired. Like, oh, you got me fired. No, wait till you get home, people. But anyways, are you planning on watching these get caught up, or are you already caught up and super excited like me for season 5? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to Movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me on this recap of Stranger Things, season 1 through 4, anticipating the epic conclusion on Netflix throughout this holiday season for the remainder of 2025. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.